a lot of like cavern core bands these days that wash their whole album out with all these different effects and stuff. We weren't wanting that at all, so we kind of let the music kind of speak for itself.
Dark Abstraction, the final plane of the mind's depths. Still inside of consciousness, into the realm of morbid reveries, a landscape of biggest horizon, surrounded by cascades of distorted memories. The world in despair, apparitions shriek their grief, without the roots of prophecies, dreams of the afterlife disappear. I am stranded in the breeze, forever unable to wake from sleep. In this desolation, I try to find absolute death that I must seek. This is the path before me, sacred in the land of mental emptiness. Every hour I lay in slumber, my soul grows close to the nothingness. My soul grows close to the nothingness. Yet the final conclusion does not arrive. The hand of death cannot open my eyes, waiting for the day when I can finally revive. Longing for the night that sleep and death become one.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If the two of you would be so kind, would you mind introducing yourselves?
My name's Chris, and I play drums.
I'm Chuck, play guitar and do vocals.
And what is the name of your band?
We're called Ectovoid.
Chris and Chuck, welcome. Let's get this question out of the way. How would you describe the music of Ectovoid?
Dark, morbid, bizarre, familiar but new. Total death metal, though.
Yeah, definitely. inspired a lot by, obviously classic older bands, some death metal bands, some bands outside of that. And, we play fast, we play intense and just try to, write killer shit that really speaks to us.
Do you guys draw from a lot of outside influences outside of death metal?
Some, traditional forms, of early, easily accessible music like rock and jazz and blues, stuff like that we've grown up on.
Okay. Can you guys tell me a little bit about the origins of the band and what your intentions were when you formed it?
Yeah, so the band was formed in 2010. Chuck and I had already been playing together in another band for a few years when we were kind of, in high school, and a little bit after that. It was called Bloated Carcass, and it was pretty different from Ectovoid. It was, still kind of fast, sort of death thrash sort of sounding stuff, but we were more just kind of having fun with it. We recorded a few demos, but didn't, go too much farther with it than that. And around that time, we decided we want to make something a little bit kind of more serious and more in line with stuff that we were listening to on a daily basis. So the band was formed in August of 2010, and the three founding members were Chuck, myself, and our friend Michael on guitars, who unfortunately passed away in 2016. But that was the initial lineup. We got right to it. We wrote songs really quickly, recorded a demo that we self-released, and then we were picked up by our first label called Hell Thrasher Productions about a year after that, and released our first album in 2012 and went from there.
Yeah, I mean, other than some of the, non-death metal influences, we were drawing a lot of inspiration from bands like Incantation, Morbid Angel, Autopsy, myself personally, Mortuary Drape, and Voivod. Those are more like classic influences, and as far as like modern stuff goes, for like Dead Congregation, Cruciamentum, Necros Christos, and some on the more bestial Black Death side of things like Nocturnal Blood and The Haunting Presence. Like that's where I was drawing a lot of influence when creating Ectovoid. Our prior band, Bloated Carcass, was more focused on like stuff that was geared towards like bands we were getting into from like Razorback Records. We were into like Frightmare and Blood Freak and stuff like that. And, all the bands on that roster, were listing a lot of other bands as their influences that we were like, we knew about, but we just want to lean more into those styles, the more dark, morbid styles of death metal.
Yeah, there was some kind of like a circle of bands that were coming up around that time that, like Chuck just mentioned, that we were really into. And, we kind of took inspiration to that and, wanted to sort of like kind of be a part of sort of like a new movement that was kind of going on in death metal at the time.
So you guys formed specifically with the style of death metal in mind?
We did, yeah. I mean, we had a fairly kind of basic, kind of sound that we wanted to sort of capture when we wrote our first few songs. Our first few songs were, definitely a lot more, I would say, directly similar to other stuff that we listened to. They were kind of more simplistic. We wrote some of them fairly quickly, and, it was a little bit later on that I think we kind of started to carve out more of a distinctive sound of our own.
When you guys write songs, how does it usually start? People watching the video can see you're in your practice space. Do you guys start with jams?
Typically what happens is I come up with riffs on guitar, usually on acoustic guitar in E standard. And usually if that riff sounds good, I transcribe it to C standard in our electric guitar form, and I just kind of piece everything together, come up with an idea, basically flesh out a whole song before he and I even get together. And when we do get together, we kind of jam out the song and decide which parts we like the most to repeat and kind of flesh it out together after that. And then we decide if we need to add more or take away from it. And usually around that time, we've cooked up, a pretty good one. And he usually takes care of all the lyrics, and that's just been our dynamic almost for, 15 plus years now. So it's worked pretty well for going on 3 albums now.
In terms of the arrangements, how complete are the songs when the rest of the band hears them?
They're totally complete. Like Chris and I, we get together before anyone else even hears the songs. And we've gotten into a new routine of like recording like videos of these songs and posting them to YouTube so that they're accessible to the rest of the bandmates, because we have a bandmate that lives in Georgia, one state over, and we've kind of grown a little bit more apart throughout our region in Birmingham. So it's easier to jam with each other, you know, over the internet these days, as most bands do. So it's great to like be able to transcribe some tabs or shoot the video over, and the other guys can learn it by ear or by eye, however they need to. And when we all get together, it's as if we've been playing it for months. So it works out like that every time.
Yeah, I would say the only part of the music that is kind of done later on is the lyrics. A lot of times we'll have, you know, kind of the basic demos of like the instrumental structure of the song that we've been working on. And, you know, if I'm doing lyrics, I'll just kind of write the lyrics, you know, to that and try and enhance the song with those. So those are kind of done separately. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, Chuck and I pretty much, you know, formulate everything ourselves before the rest of the band hears it.
Chuck, do you do your tabs in Guitar Pro?
No, I usually write it on paper, but I haven't done tabs a lot lately. I just teach people in person or they learn by ear, you know, so tabs are very new to me actually. So I haven't actually had to transcribe any of our songs yet, but in the future, there's lots of different ways to do it, as what you just mentioned, and just lots of easy ways. Paper usually works pretty well, you know.
Yeah. The demos that you send the rest of the band, are they the YouTube recordings that you were talking about, or do you do also like home recordings in like a DAW, like Pro Tools or something like that?
No, it's just the YouTube video.
Okay. So, at the time we're having this conversation, Ectovoid will be releasing a new album at the end of the week called In Unreality's Coffin, which will be coming out through Everlasting Sphere Records.
Yep, that's right.
Tell me a little bit about this album. Tell me what your intentions were when you guys were writing this, and when you started, and how long it took for you to complete it.
The songs, the very earliest material for the album was written, I want to say way back in maybe late 2019, maybe even a little bit earlier than that. But we didn't honestly really start working really intensely on the songwriting until I want to say probably like mid 2020, early 2021. It was actually right in the middle of the COVID pandemic. Chuck had material, but for a variety of reasons, we just hadn't really, started to really focus a lot on, writing and coming up with new material and really turning it into songs. And we finally started that. I want to say, it was about mid 2020 when we started really, kind of getting together more when we were able to, obviously with everything going on. And that's when the songs really started to take shape. And we started coming up with stuff that we were like, really happy with and excited about. And it inspired us to, keep working on that and really kind of got our momentum back after a period of, kind of less activity with songwriting. So yeah, we, started working really hard and finally entered the studio in early 2023.
Yeah, I mean, we had a lot of stuff coming up in between all that. We had other bands going on. We have a death doom band called Seraphic Entombment, also on Everlasting Spew. We were working on that album and doing one-off shows with both of those bands, with Ectovoid and Seraphic Entombment, sometimes doing double duty. And also Chris had recently joined Father Befouled. So just kind of spread out a little bit all over the place, but not in a bad way. We're just kind of staying busy in different ways. But for the most part, I mean, the album came together really organically. And circling back to demoing stuff, I mean, thinking about it now, like we don't demo songs. Like they basically come to life naturally until it's time to record them. That's the really only time they get recorded. I mean, a lot of times these days, bands are constantly recording demos. Probably have demos of their songs 3 or 4 times over before it even hits the studio track. But it's just usually how we've done it, and it works pretty well. Like, I think keeping it organic the whole time gives it room to breathe until it is time to record, and we end up capturing something that we could have never really thought of. We might have burned ourselves out with that song, recording it 3 other times. We captured the magic the one time we recorded it. So that's kind of just like how we've done things throughout the years.
As you mentioned, it's been 10 years since the last album came out. Did you go into this one wanting to do anything different or wanting to build on anything that you've done in the past?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely went into this album with not really a sense of urgency, but like it had been so long since we had recorded and released a full length that, we just knew that we were going to do everything humanly possible to make this, a big step forward in every way possible. At least that's the way I felt about it. I mean, everything from like, recording it to producing it, mixing, mastering, the artwork. It had our new logo that we didn't have on the last album. I mean, everything that was involved in this album, we really wanted to make an effort to just push ourselves as much as possible, play as well as we could, have the best, sound that we could possibly have engineering wise. Because, it's like it had been so long and, we didn't want people, sleeping on us or forgetting about us or anything. We knew that we wanted this album to really be sort of like a rebirth for the band and kind of a new era and like really just get us back up to speed and kind of make up for lost time, honestly.
Yeah, a lot of change since we even first began recording ourselves. Our first album we did, analog, like reel to reel, and that was cool. It was like a big old school studio with like wooden panels everywhere. I mean, it's legit. It's nice, like something out of the 70s, out of a movie. And it's crazy for us to be in that setting. And then for our second album, we did it digitally at a friend's place in his home studio, and it was fun. It worked out well. We liked how it sounded. But with this album, we had a lot more control with how we wanted to be represented as a band and our vision. And like so much time had passed. A lot of new bands have come along that we like and are into. And basically just wanted to come up with an album that we would think was good and that we would want to hear. And that means our fans and friends would like that too, naturally. So I think we were able to do that with this one.
When you say you wanted this album to be a big step forward for you guys, do you feel like the arrangements and the riffs are more challenging this time around?
I mean, I don't play guitar in the band, but I would say yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we've pushed each other very well throughout the years with our writing and playing style. I feel like we've written some catchy, memorable hooks on this album. They're fast and brutal without being too like technical, and just serving the song and having, I don't know, just are the best ideas that we've had, represented on this album the way they are right now. Just, yeah, I think we've been able to achieve what we've wanted to the last 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, when I listen to our older stuff, we play a lot, a good bit faster now. Our playing's a lot tighter. We've obviously grown a lot as musicians in that time, and we really tried to, show that as much as we could on this recording. We're not like going out of our way to just like show chops or anything, but I mean, I think just naturally as we've progressed as musicians, the songs have gotten kind of more energetic, a little bit more complex, just faster tempos, more variation, and yeah, I definitely think it's a step forward in that way.
I think since our Inner Death EP, we were able to find our sound and really lean into it and do that comfortably. And yeah, that's how I feel about, what's to come past this as well. Like, I feel like I've figured out our own formula and I'm able to execute that, regularly.
I mean, when you say formula, do you mean in terms of arrangements, or are you referring to something else?
More so like our unique sound and our style, like the way our riffs come about a song. This is mostly what I mean by that.
Okay. You mentioned the production, which is on this album a big step forward for you guys. Tell me about working with Alex Parra.
So we worked with Alex for the first time actually in the EP we put out in 2019 called Unearthed. That was the first time we recorded with him. And since then, there's no question that we're recording with anyone else. I mean, he has just done a phenomenal job. He has grown, as a producer and an engineer as we have kind of grown as a band. So it's kind of cool. We've, sort of seen that progression in each other as we've moved along. And Alex is a great dude. We've known him for a good number of years now. He himself is a phenomenal guitarist, one of the best guitarists I've ever known personally. He plays in a power metal band called Paladin. He's also played in some other projects, but that's kind of his main thing. And, just as the years have gone on, he's obviously developed more and more knowledge and expertise. He's acquired better gear. We actually recorded this album with the help of someone that Alex is working with now that is kind of a specialist in drum production. So that was really awesome. But working with him is fantastic. He listens to our input. He also puts his own input in, and like I said, his own expertise. And, he's not that far away. I mean, we can crash there when we record. Everything's super chill. Recording can be very stressful. It's not stressful, when he's involved. And so, yeah, nothing but good things to say about that.
Sorry, Alex's studio is called Second Sight Sound?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Chuck, do you want to say anything about working with Alex and capturing your guitar tone?
Yeah, like him being a musician himself, he really knows what sounds good and how to draw the best out of who he's working with in multiple ways. Like not just like complimenting your play style with choosing like the right tones and stuff, but like if he knows you can do better, he has a way to like pull that out of you. Like he'll be like, hey, let's do that again. Like if your take was a little funky or whatever. And that I love about him, and that's makes him one of my favorite producers to have worked with over almost 20 years of doing music, because 5 of those years were ourselves trying to learn how to produce and record music. So it's been awesome to find people like Alex who are as, proficient at their craft. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say. He's super laid back and easy to work with. And it's just like great to take what we've had, bubbling in our cauldron, to his studio, and him really be able to capture what we've been trying to do, for months or years at that time, and really make it sound how it needs to sound.
Chris, you mentioned that Alex also has a partner who helped you with finding your drum sound, an engineer for the drums. Can you tell me about that process and what you wanted your drums to sound like for this one?
Yeah, so I mean, I'll be honest, I am not, a drummer that's extremely like knowledgeable or focused on like gear or like a really specific sound, either recording or rehearsing. I mean, I'm not like a major student of any of that stuff. I'm largely self-taught and, kind of have just sort of figured things out on my own over the years. And when we recorded with Alex and his roommate, honestly, I mean, I played on their drum set, so they already had it tuned, more or less, extremely well before I even recorded a note, And from that point on, I mean, I like, just a good balance of getting fairly organic tones, but I'm definitely not opposed to, putting a little studio sheen on it, a little studio polish. I want the drums to match the intensity of, the riffs and the guitar part and everything else. I mean, that's the most important thing about it to me. And honestly, when we got the first mix from Alex, the drum sound was right from the get-go, like no notes. So again, like Chuck said, very organic and, very easy.
Is clarity something that's important to you guys in either the drum performance or the finished production?
I would say, yeah. Again, we're not a tech death band, we're not, some other super, modern sounding band where like everything has to be absolutely like crystal precise and everything sounds like a sample, that's definitely not us. But again, like our material's kind of gotten a little bit more intricate and more involved, and we want that to show in the recording. We don't want things obscured by studio stuff that could easily be fixed. So,
and also we wanted to focus on writing and playing songs that we could, replicate that sound and, experience live. Like a lot of like cavern core bands these days that wash their whole album out with all these different effects and stuff.
Right.
We weren't wanting that at all, so we kind of let the music kind of speak for itself without really needing too much studio sheen, but enough to make it sound good and clear, and crisp, but still natural. And that's really all we kind of ask or need in the studio. We're kind of easy to please when it comes to that, and easy to work with, and it makes post-production a lot faster and easier too, because it already kind of sounds good on its own. You're just kind of like, touching it up after that, and it's kind of what we go for with each album.
So in working with Alex, was your goal in terms of what he'd bring to the sound to capture your live sound and just make it sound crisp?
I think so, yeah. Like we were talking about earlier, our songs are really, kind of perfected and put together when we rehearse, and we love playing live whenever we can. And I think it's reasonable to say that our goal was to kind of to capture definitely the energy that we feel, when we rehearse and when we play live. Like we all really lock in and really play off of each other, and, really we try to just go for a really intense, kind of dark energy when we play. And I think, we don't really necessarily expect an album to sound exactly like we do when we're just jamming with drums and amps, in a rehearsal space. But we definitely wanted to capture that same energy and translate it to, a record and make it sound as good as possible.
You mentioned that early on one of your influences was Cruciamentum. Do you want to say anything about the gentleman who mastered the album and how he got involved with this?
Yes, absolutely. Dan is, fantastic at mixing and mastering music. We worked with him on a few releases now. We've, met him personally. He's a super cool dude and just extremely easy to work with. I have nothing but the highest praise for his work. His studio and production is called Resonant Sound. So I highly recommend that to anyone, in a band looking to get an album mixed or mastered. He's the man for sure.
Yeah, I mean, he just has his finger on the pulse of everything that's relevant in death metal and metal in general the last 20 years plus. There's countless albums he's mastered that we have listened to and own in our personal collections. And I don't know, it's basically like growing up listening to them, starting out, our early days of this band. It was just like, yeah, that's exactly what we're striving for, is this dark, morbid, bizarre, memorable, catchy, just hooky death metal that just grabs you and drags you into the grave. So just working with him was just made all the sense in the world. And he's worked on our other album with Seraphic Entombment also, and he did that before this one, so it's kind of getting a taste of what this album is going to sound like. And we were just chomping at the bit, waiting for every time he'd send us something to check out. And it's just like a dream come true, to basically have grown up listening to this guy and know that he has paid such close, precious attention to our material. It's like, yeah, it doesn't get any better than that, honestly.
Is it important for you guys that when you choose an engineer, that they have that kind of knowledge of the kind of music that you're making?
Absolutely. Like everything else, our first album we recorded with, a guy that, he did guitar pedals for Sonic Youth and bands like that. He didn't know anything about death metal, but he made a ripping, first album for us. And then whoever mastered it after that, made us sound as good as they could at that time. But, as if the person who's mastering our album has that understanding, they can take it where it needs to go. But anyone recording it, now we prefer to have them be more into metal. Like Alex, he's into everything under the sun metal wise. But yeah, in the past we weren't as choosy, but yeah, especially now these days, having someone who's into what we're into and going for mastering our album, yeah, that's must have.
Sorry, I just want to touch on one thing. Did you say that this was the first album that you guys recorded digitally and the previous albums were reel to reel?
No, only the first one was. The first one was recorded reel to reel. Everything that we've done since then has been recorded digitally.
Okay.
Yeah, when we recorded the first album, it was really cool recording in analog. Especially at the time, we were like, this is classic. This is the way it's got to be. And especially because we were such a less experienced band and had never really recorded in a proper studio before, we definitely made plenty of mistakes and, plenty of things that needed to be kind of touched up or polished up a little bit. And recording it in analog made that really, really difficult. It was very tedious and time consuming to go back and do that. So it was a cool experience for the first album, but we knew after that was a progression that we made from the first to the second album, was we want to do this digitally and do it with someone who, listens to this kind of music on a regular basis.
Yeah. And recording digitally is much faster, right? In terms of the mixing side? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's night and day comparison. I love analog recordings. I have all the respect in the world for bands that do that. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just whatever you're feeling. I just think, again, especially at the time, we were so much less experienced. It was right at the time and it felt cool, but going forward, no looking back, we're happy with the way we do it.
Chris, you mentioned that you handle the lyrics. Do you want to say anything about the lyrical themes or some of the concepts that you had for this album?
Yeah, the concepts for this album are really just a continuation of all the concepts that we've done in the band. From the very beginning of the band, when we started, we all kind of, I think, collectively agreed that we wanted to do, try and strive for lyrics that were a little outside the norm, of most death and black metal, even bands that we listen to. We love bands with, all kinds of lyrics. But, we're not, Satanists and, so we don't write about something that's inauthentic to us. We didn't really want to concern ourselves too much with kind of standard themes that most other bands in this style of music tend to write about. like gore and occultism and, like I said, Satanism, stuff like that. Stuff, again, we love that in other bands, but it wasn't really right for us. And kind of from the beginning, we wanted to go a different direction. And something that I draw a lot of inspiration from is just kind of metaphysical like questions and sort of disturbing and dark subjects that I feel like kind of strike to more of, what reality actually is for people. Not stuff that's like sort of locked away in fantasy or, things that people imagine, but actual themes and subjects that are related to actual real life and existence, and things that have honestly disturbed me a lot when I think about them over the years and kind of try to sort of rectify, our experiences, people with this sort of overwhelming, experience of reality. So without kind of going too deep into the weeds, that's where I draw inspiration from our lyrics. And also with this album in particular, I wanted to really make an effort for the lyrics to really feel like part of the song in every way, shape, and form, and to really have the vocals kind of enhance this, the song, and almost like have the vocals sort of be riffs on their own to go with the riffs that, Chuck wrote on guitar, and not just kind of have, someone reciting the lyrics over the music, but to really have the lyrics and the vocals like part of the music from the get-go.
Is vocal phrasing something that you guys do when you're jamming, or do you wait until the songs are complete?
Pretty much wait till the songs are complete. Chuck is, in my opinion, a fucking awesome vocalist, and will always add, his own, kind of touches and things like that. But I pretty much write the lyrics with certain vocal phrasing in mind, and I'll kind of, share that with him, and we kind of collaborate from there.
You guys mentioned that you like to play live. Do you have anything planned for the near future, or maybe over the summer? Do you have any tours or festival appearances in mind? Or
we do. Unfortunately, we can't quite reveal specifics on that. I think a couple of announcements are just about to be made. Wish we could, but yes, we absolutely do. We want to support this album to the fullest extent that we can with shows, tour dates, stuff like that. So yes, things are absolutely in the works.
Very cool. So by the time people hear this episode or watch it on YouTube, In Unreality's Coffin will be out through Everlasting Sphere Records. Chris and Chuck, please tell everyone how they can order the new album. What's the best way to get it?
So obviously I would recommend, hitting up the label. They have a Bandcamp, everlastingspew.bandcamp.com, where, people can listen to the album first, check it out, hopefully pick up a copy from there. They have links to like their official website, their web store, and you can order it directly from the Bandcamp page. They have a, YouTube page, and obviously we're on YouTube and Spotify. So that's a great place to, kind of check it out and that, make sure, something you want to hear. We think it will be. And pick up. We also have a Bandcamp page. It's ectovoid.bandcamp.com. Once we get our copies in, they'll be listed for sale there as well. And all kinds of other distros and, web stores and stuff.
So when this episode is released, I believe the digital CD and cassette versions of the album will be out, but there's also a vinyl release planned for later in the spring. Do you guys have any details on that? Do you know how many versions Giorgio and Everlasting Sphere are making for this?
I believe there's going to be 2 versions, kind of a special color version and just a standard black vinyl when that comes out. Pretty certain on that. So that'll be something awesome. We don't have really more details on the vinyl release. Just what you said, that it's going to be out in the spring. Hopefully not, too late in the year, because we obviously want to have copies of that. We're both, big vinyl nerds and love that format. We love CDs and tapes too, but, definitely excited for a vinyl release. So yeah, all 3 versions are going to be fucking awesome.
Does all your merch go through your personal Bandcamp page, ectovoid.bandcamp.com?
At this time it does, yeah. We don't have any other format or anything where we sell our merch except at shows. So yeah, that's where you can go and pick something up, and there'll be more stuff in stock ASAP as soon as we kind of get everything received and listed.
Also, I'd like to mention we recently got a reissue of our second album, Dark Abstraction, through our good friends at Boris Records from Georgia. And those turned out awesome. We have 2 color variants for that. We have black and dark midnight blue, and those will be available soon as well, with some older versions of our t-shirts featuring our a new logo and older art from around the Dark Abstraction era, the Visions of Reflective Decay design. So yeah, we'll have that up soon as well.
All through the Bandcamp page?
All through the Bandcamp page.
Excellent. And if people want to get updates on the live dates that you mentioned, what's the best way to follow you guys online?
We have a Facebook that we update regularly, so you can follow us on our Facebook page. We also have an Instagram. It's at Ectovoid Ancient Death. Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Instagram and Facebook, just social media, we use all of that. That's really the easiest way to get updates out. And other than that, anyone is welcome to email us as well. We're ectovoidmetal@gmail.com. We're happy to correspond with anybody. So.
And also to mention, we have a web page, just ectovoid.com. You could see band history, old flyers, pictures, band bios, stuff like that. And that'll be updated soon with, shows and merch availability as well.
That's awesome. You guys mentioned that you have another project, Seraphic Entombment. Georgia sent me that album as well. It's killer.
Thank you.
Are you guys working on new stuff? Do you have anything planned for the future?
Yeah, we haven't worked on new stuff in a while. After the first album came out, we really wanted to lock in on Ectovoid and focus on that and finish everything for the new album. So we haven't worked on new Seraphic stuff in a minute, but the band is definitely still active. We've got dates and plans coming up for that project as well. And definitely, now that this album is out, with some free time that we have, definitely going to be working on new Seraphic material. So yeah.
Very cool. It was really nice talking to you guys. Is there anything else you want to say? Anything else you want the listeners to know?
No, it was great talking to you as well. And thank you so much for the interview. And it was killer to meet you. And we appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, man, this has been great. Your channel is awesome. You've got a lot of great bands on there and hope to see more of you soon.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Yep. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.